why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about the permanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
And we are live. Welcome to the DGen Roundtable. We have a very special guest here tonight. We are very, very excited to talk about a lot of things going on in our world today. I mean, the last few weeks have been nothing short of constant news, information, a little bit of information overload for some of us. And then you turn over to the markets and we're nothing short of information overload there, from the ETFs to the SEC, to the Bitcoin conference coming up, and at least one notable speaker, almost was two notable speakers, even though I said that was all pandering. It was never going to happen, and it didn't, so I was not surprised by that. But yeah, so we were very, very excited to have Brandon Davis, Rags to Riches, on our show today. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming on.
Great, man. As always, I do appreciate you bringing me on, and that's because this is your channel. And you pick and choose the people that you bring on, and I'm honored. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. How's it going? It's been a while since we've had you on.
Yeah, man. You know, I'd say it's going well. Lots of stuff happening in the world right now, but we're trying to, tread water here. We're waiting for Pulse Chain to turn around, waiting for the markets to turn around, and then we're trying to make sense of all the craziness that's happening around us, right?
Trying. I don't know if it's possible. We're trying.
Yeah.
Will, buddy, how you doing? Where you at today? You still in Missouri?
Oh, aloha, everybody. Yes, I am still over here in Missouri looking to do a meetup in the local area over by Springfield here. Probably tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do Saturday as well because we're wrapping up this job site over here. But I'm glad to be here. Brandon, thanks for joining us, bro. I look forward to having this conversation, man. It's going to be a good one. Nate, what's up with you, man? It looks like we lost Zenith. He got rugged again.
Yeah, I think we lost Zenith. He'll be back. He's got to get his freaking computer
there we are.
working.
Rugged, but not forever.
Extremely blurry. Oof, Jesus. Uh-oh. But
it is blurry. Go like this.
You're right, Brandon. There's been some crazy stuff going on. Just trying to make sense of it. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I kind of feel like we're in probably one of the best, or at least the funnest, like, timelines, right? Of them all. That's just my own personal take, though.
Well, when you say timeline, you say funnest timelines. What are you referring to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was that?
When you say the funnest timelines, what are you referring to?
Funnest as in, like, just crazy, wild stuff happening where it's like you get the highs, you got the lows, and obviously it's like it's painful at the lows and it's awesome at the highs, but you still got to admit, with all this dynamic range going on, with how much fun this is, like, and that's what I call fun. It's just, it's all over the place.
Well, it makes it easier to be a content creator when crazy shit's happening around the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Zenith? How's it going? Aside from your computer.
Hey, I think the computer's good. I just may have closed out of like 52 Chrome tabs, so hopefully that helps speed things up. But yeah, Chrome is she's thirsty for the RAM, and she'll eat it all up if you give it to her. So hopefully we're good there. But yeah, no, I'm very excited. Like you were talking about, dude, this is a wild roller coaster. I know we just covered the thesis show the other day, and the outlook there was, if you thought this has been a wild ride, we still got 4 months till election time, so buckle up.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you think about it, how much, first of all, we have a debate earlier than we've ever had a presidential debate before an election. That wasn't by accident. And so this was kind of, at least I'll say this, as in there was some things behind the scenes already going on with a plan in place. And, this is starting to play out. Today we hear that Kamala Harris may have to give back all the donations that were given to Biden. We'll see. I don't know. That's for the FEC and for a judge to tell us. But it is certainly interesting, and I don't have any inkling of how the law works on that side of things. But man, it's crazy. From Joe Biden, 9 days ago, saying I am not dropping out for like 2 weeks straight, to apparently dropping out on a plain piece of white paper. So that's quite interesting.
It's a scary situation that we live in right now. Very, very scary. And think about, if you're a Democrat right now, you're a Democrat and you elected these delegates, and these delegates go and they cast their vote to put in a presidential candidate to run against the Republicans. And then you realize that you, as a person who elected those delegates, you realize that suddenly, with just a swipe of a magic wand, there is no due process. There is no administrative process whatsoever. Somebody, somewhere, above your head just says, guess what? Kamala Harris, she's going to be president. She's going to be the presidential candidate for the Democrat Party. How does that make Democrats feel? And I'm going to tell you, Democrats, they don't know what the hell's going on, along with much of the rest of America right now. But what we're seeing is there's an onion of power, and they have peeled back one layer, and we are now able to see that this whole election process is complete bullshit. I don't really know how else to put it at this point. So it's quite frightening for a lot of people to see this for the first time, whereas there are many of us who have been talking about this for a long time. And this, they call it the Leviathan. They call it, let's say, the composite man of the government that's been running things for decades. They're now having to kind of show their ass a little bit because they're running out of tools to be able to crush the opposition. If Donald Trump had been shot, if Donald Trump had been assassinated, Joe Biden would be at rallies right now. MSNBC, CNN, all those places would be talking about him being sharp as a tack. They would talk about, he's got more energy than I do, and I'm 40 years younger than he is. And, the next option, if Donald Trump didn't get assassinated, didn't get taken out, the next option is to take Joe Biden out. And they're replacing him with Kamala at this point. And I don't think that it was voluntary. I think that, as reported by many news agencies, that they basically forced him out. Nancy Pelosi showed her hand. We saw that debate like you talked about. I tweeted right after that debate, and I basically said this is the single biggest Democratic coup in history that's about to take place. Now, I said Gavin Newsom was going to be the candidate. It looks like it's going to be Kamala now. But this is huge news that's not being reported because all the mainstream media are complete tools, complete puppets. I want everybody listening to this stream right now to remember how many people in the mainstream media told you that Joe Biden was cool, calm, and collected, that he was smart as a tack, that he was sharp, because those same people today are lying straight to your face. So massive implications, guys. We now understand that most people now understand they do not live in a democratic republic. And it's not been that way for a while, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. But unfortunately, I feel like a lot of people want to live in this world where they don't want to believe what they're seeing. And so they don't see it. It seems about half the country is living that way. Now, maybe they see it and they don't want to admit it. Maybe they don't want to see it, so they change the topic. But, I have a lot of I'm from Massachusetts, so I have a lot of friends that are very left-leaning. I have a lot of friends that are very, very progressive. And then I have some, I'll say acquaintances, not close friends anymore, that are like extreme left. So I read a lot of what they talk about, and you know what? They couldn't be happier to have Kamala because they see now another potential chance to to win the election, where I think they were starting to feel like they had potentially lost. Now, again, they don't care about due process. They don't potentially care about what's happening. All they care about is that one person doesn't get into office, and whatever it takes to get there is worth the end game if he doesn't get elected.
We're at the point.
That's so scary.
Oh, no, and we're at the point now where there's always a nuclear option. The nuclear option is what happened in 1963, right? You murk a president. That's the nuclear option. They don't want to have to do that. What do they want to do first? They want to assassinate character. They want to, go into a former presidential candidate or former president's. Sorry, there's a baby crying in the background. Into their residence, drum up some documents that weren't triple padlocked and they were only double padlocked. Try to convict them, put them in handcuffs and take them out. They want to drum up these 34 felony charges for something that was absolutely crazy regarding real estate, which every person in the world does, including all of those people who ever purchased real estate before. All of these options are running out. With lesser people, they probably would have buckled by now. With lesser people, some might have committed suicide by now, but Donald Trump is not going to do that. And they see that as a massive threat. Okay, so what's the next option? We're getting closer to the nuclear option. Was there one shooter? Was there two shooters? How come nobody's reporting on the cell phone data that came out from this dude, where he's going back and forth to Washington, D.C. and going to the Pentagon, and he's dating back since March? Where's the explanation for that? The Secret Service director, she takes a fall, she resigns, and then that's supposed to quell everybody, right? Well, we need to keep asking questions. She took the fall. Why do you think she didn't answer anything? Because she was instructed not to. She knew she was screwed. She fell on that sword because she was told to fall on that sword. Guys, this is not a good situation. Dude, absolutely. And when we zoom out and take a step back, folks, and I know that there's a lot of people out here listening to me, and they're saying this dude's batshit crazy. If I'm batshit crazy, how have I been calling this for the past 3 or 4 years? That when societies get to the point of demoralization that we have now, get to the point of hatred of country, get to the point of hedonism, get to all these points, what happens? The big boys take over. They've already taken over a long time ago, but they can do anything that they want. They can put anybody in office that they want. They can kill people and get away with it. Why do you think they're so afraid to completely release the JFK documents, which Trump says he's going to release on day one? Like, if you look back at history and you look at like Russia and Nikita Khrushchev and how, you go on vacation with your family and you come back from vacation and people in the Kremlin, they get involved and they get together and they say, hey, we got to take this guy out of power. And he's flying back. He gets intercepted by the KGB, gets put in an SUV, gets taken to an office. And they've got a document right there for him to sign that says, hey, I resign now. Like this, it doesn't just happen. This is a playbook that happens all over the place. And now we're just starting to see that. We're starting to see that play out.
I absolutely there's some pretty crazy stuff that's happening right now. And I actually want to talk a little bit about Neil Howie that PBD just recently had on, right? But before we do that, we usually do chat shout outs. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go with that. And then we'll come back to this.
Cool.
Okay. Well, let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, you already know what time it is. Let me find there we go. It's time for chat motherfucking shout out. So this is the part of the show where we shout out all the folks at home that are watching us. And we give you guys just as much love as y'all are giving us. Holy shit. We've got 11 starred comments up here. Brendan, whenever you're ready, bro, go ahead and take it away.
All right, Miss Producer, if you can bring those up. Always number one. Always the first commenter. 54X. What up, buddy? Good to see you. What up? Hey, Facing Reality. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. I don't know if you've been here before. I might not have seen you, but thank you for coming. Love the name. Thanks for joining. We got a lot of good topics to go through tonight. It's not all politics. Give me some crypto too. Agreed. Make sure you follow Rags. He has some really, and on Twitter too, because he has some really good tweets, which we'll go through.
Brendan, would you mind reading these out for the folks that are catching this on audio only, or that are listening to this in podcast form whenever we get it uploaded to Spotify and things?
Let's keep them rolling. Moonmutt, hello, my fellow Degens. Hey, friend, good to see you. Who invited Brandon? You're fired. And I'm Brendan. He's Brandon. We have two different names. I'm not fired.
You gotta do that in the Trump voice. You're fired.
Stylist, hey. Good morning, Degens. Welcome.
Yeah, good to see Crypto Stylist. She actually just started streaming again, and I think she had her second episode with the Grace Currency guys. So go check that out on her channel. That was a great stream.
That was a good stream. I caught that one. Our favorite Fast Abdul, only the highest quality of guests for the Degen Roundtable.
He was being sarcastic, guys.
Joe, we already have. Welcome. I don't know what that was in reference to, but Hex Glenn, hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Tam, what's up, fam? Number one cheerleader, fam. Tam, thank you. Hexy Trucker, this is the gayest show ever. We do have no women on here. So
it's five dudes talking about crypto and politics, so I don't know what else you want. Sorry, boss.
Paul Sachs, also known as Pulse X. I see 4 souls on screen. Good to see you, boys. Sorry, Rags.
It's witty. It's witty.
That's true.
All right.
Oh my God, chat's going wild today.
Thank you all for popping in the chat. Keep those comments coming. As we go through our chats, put stuff in the chat. We will comment on them. We'll bring them into the conversation. We have a lot of good conversation tonight. So we will continue. I don't know where we left off, Nate. I think that was with you. We kind of stopped right there in the middle for chat shout-outs, but let's continue.
Brandon, you've heard of Neil Howey and basically like the 4 seasons of every 100 years, right?
Yes.
And so basically, like what ends up happening is you get 4 generations. These 4 generations tend to be kind of like 4 seasons. The winter time is like crisis season, right? Where you have some sort of war. Well, actually, the last 3 cycles has been a war of some kind, right? Something really major, and not just one, but like lots of different stuff added in. But usually it's has to do with a war. And then the generation after this generation is like the kind of like the silent generation. They're in peaceful times, but they're also not exactly allowed because of structure and all that. They're not exactly allowed to be creative, even though that's really the only thing that they have nowadays. And it's kind of like, there's a little bit of pent up stuff going on there. So then that's when you start getting to like the rebellion stage where, everybody just wants to do nothing but, They just want to like do imaginary things and blah blah blah.
They're bored.
Yeah, exactly. They're bored, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into the very last one, in which it's kind of the segue back into it's just gone way too far. Everybody's split. Nobody can agree to anything. And then next thing you know, the only way to restructure society is to have some sort of crisis go on. And like I said, the last 3 times this has gone on, last 300 years has been a huge war of some kind, and as well as like famine and stuff. So did you hear about any of that?
Yeah, it's great that people are starting to look at history for answers. If we all did that, we'd be much better off. If if you're in the States and you looked at the Constitution and then you looked back behind the Constitution to see how they came up with all these, incredible doctrines to live by and to govern, you'd understand why they did these things. So, and then you would also understand that, guys, I say this a lot on my stream. Like, I'm at the beach right now, and you can look out at the ocean, and you can see waves coming in. But if you look real closely, there's actually subwaves on top of those waves going in at a different angle. And then on those subwaves, there's other ones. And if we can understand that, A, this stuff has happened before, and B, we're probably a tiny little speck on a very small wave, and that wave might not crash against the shore for 500 years. Maybe the smaller waves crash on shore every 4 to 5 years or 10 years. But there's cycles to things. Things repeat themselves. Human behavior plays out very predictably over time. And that's why I love, I love that Patrick Bet David and him bringing that guest on, the fourth turning and all that sort of stuff is great for people.
Yeah, I mean, we're currently having two pretty long, drawn out wars in our world right now between Russia, Ukraine, Hamas, Israel / Palestine, and look, those are really bad wars, and those wars really shouldn't be what they are currently. The United States needs to be the diplomatic. Look, I don't think that we need to be the world power, telling everyone how to live, putting in our own governments that we want to be run. Or always giving as much money as we do. They say, hey, what happens if Russia takes Ukraine? And they keep going. Well, who does that harm the most, right? It harms Europe. Why isn't Europe leading point on that war? Now, I digress because we're not getting into that. My point is there's two bad wars in the world right now. We had a lot of issues pulling out of Afghanistan. We've had the crisis at the border with a lot of people coming in and nobody in office currently seeming to care about that. So there's a lot going on in the world today, and how we keep that from continuing might depend on our next president, because we need a strong president that's going to be respected on the world stage, or at least feared, even if they aren't respected on the world stage, so that we can have some better diplomacy internationally.
It's a weird correlation too. If you're looking at the way that like these cycles go with society, right? And then you're looking at like how the cycles go with monetary. It seems a little funky that who is doing it? The principles of the New World Order. What? Forgetting his name. Ray Dalio. Thank you. Ray Dalio. So I think it's interesting how Ray Dalio is like, hey, the United States, the world power, right, is about to go into a crisis of some kind, right? And a new world power is going to have to come out of it. And now you're also looking at the millennial generation as the generation that's supposed to be in the crisis generation, right? And I just think now that we're kind of coming to age of hitting, into the 30s and into the 40s, that age, right, that age range, I think it's interesting how they just happen to sort of mesh up, you know what I mean? And I do think that actually it kind of goes a little bit into what you said on your tweet there, as far as individual sovereignty and everything.
Yeah, like I used to think that I could pinpoint everything to one problem and say all the problems in the world stem off this one problem. And that was me being naive, because the truth is there's so many things that are happening in conjunction with each other. And at any given time, even when society's good, there's a fabric of, I don't know if you would, I'll just use evil for lack of a better word right now, but there's a fabric of evil, and there's a strength to that fabric. And as we go down the wrong road, that fabric gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's hard to break through that. And I think that we're at the point right now where, culturally, we're just shit in the West. Okay. So the problem, I think that, and am I allowed to cuss, by the way? I don't want to get you guys banned off here.
Oh,
you're good, brother.
We're in a cool show.
We'll already drop the F-bomb
bit
first. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, the problem that we have right now is just, for such a long time, we have been unmoored from teaching our children any sort of values. And instead of looking at traditional values, which I think is extremely important to do, you can't just come through in 3 generations and wipe out thousands and thousands of years of common knowledge about how a person should act, function, and think. You just can't do it without major repercussions. And these people, really starting back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, these people, had kids, and these people are in government office right now, and they're starting to make decisions for the world. And this is a compounding negative effect. And it's quite sad to see. So, I said in my tweet, property rights are extremely important in a free society, because if you own property, then you have pushback. You can push back against the government. if you don't own it, property, it gets really weird, really, really quick. You see that in, communist regimes, socialist regimes. You don't have individual property rights. Well, you do, but not to the point that you would want. So I made the point to say that cryptocurrency moving forward is going to be like traditional property of the past, where if you own cryptocurrency, you have power. And I tied that back to, back in 2013 when I got into crypto, just wanted to be rich. Over the past 4 or 5 years, it's completely shifted for me. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I had children, and now I'm not as selfish as I used to be, and I care about, their futures. I think that's important. So I want to do everything I can to learn about what's happening to us right now. And I want to use my platform and my voice to speak out about these things because I find it so important for society. If we don't have people that speak out about this stuff, and if we're afraid and we're quiet and we're in our shells, these crazy ass people are going to dictate our lives. I don't know about you, man, but I don't want that. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm going to throw this over to Zenith first.
A lot of stuff there. Yeah, I think you're not wrong when it comes to the idea that crypto is potentially the new, I guess, real estate effectively, or just land ownership in general. And largely part of that is due to just scarcity of the fact that there's only so much land in the world. And then I guess theoretically you can keep inventing new cryptocurrencies. But at the end of the day, the reason why you don't see random, like, super low market cap coins go into massive volumes and liquidity pools and prices at the same time is that there's just not the economic energy in there, which is that it's really, everything still does operate on the law of conservation of energy, which is that for a long time, the economic energy has been put into the land and the economy and stuff. But now, due to the fact that the governments have been printing so much, people have been looking for new places to deposit their store of economic energy, and crypto is one of the places to do that. I mean, I'm slightly disappointed in myself that the Ethereum ETFs didn't get off to a hotter start than I thought they were going to. But at the same time, I think I missed one or two major factors. Thanks, Grayscale. Again, I didn't realize that you had an Ethereum ETF that was as large as it was, but here we are. But yeah, to your point that shifting to the real estate of crypto into the future, it does seem like all the indicators right now are pointing in that direction. And it kind of goes back to some of the Ray Dalio stuff that Nate brought up earlier, which is that these things happen in cycles. And it's not just monetary cycles, but also internal and external strife cycles, which is that we're seeing a good chunk of the war getting after each other, a good chunk of the world getting after each other in war right now, at the same time that we're starting to see some people fight over what is going to be the next world reserve currency. I think it's very possible for the United States to continue to maintain its position or slightly change the way that the US dollar retains that number one spot. But at the same time, it's entirely possible that people get a little too high on their own supply, get a little too comfortable in their position, and next thing you know, someone like the BRICS actually picks it up and becomes the world reserve currency. It's entirely possible. It's just, you got to make sure that you're not getting too big for your britches, so to speak.
Yeah, like, I've talked, I worry. Okay, here's what I worry about. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and there's like just your opinion. Who are the primary people who have really pushed Bitcoin? Like, what area of the country do they come from? The primary people over, let's say, the past like 7 or 8 years who are pushing Bitcoin and crypto. Like, what's their avatar? Are they college educated? What part of the country are they in the tech sector? Like, what's that look like? Somebody just take a stab.
It's technocracy. It's people that are on the absolute bleeding edge of technology, and it's the people that were originally doing Web3 development stuff for the past decade, but when AI got hot, a lot of them probably shifted over to that. Those are really the super early adopters. That's like 2 to 3 standard deviations before that. In my personal opinion, I think we're kind of shifting, at least when it comes to crypto technology, towards that first standard deviation of now it's just like the actual aggressive investors and true early adopters instead of like the far end of the bell curve, like trendsetters. So we're getting more people, but
no, that's right. So let's take it a little bit further. A lot of these people created these solutions, these blockchain solutions, interoperability, Most of this was born in the United States. Decentralized exchanges, different protocols, they're from Silicon Valley. And then we take it further. What sort of education did these people receive? Well, they received the standard brainwashing mechanism from these Ivy League schools, from UC Berkeley, from the Oregon States, and from UCLA, and all these places. And now these people believe in redistributive policies, economic policies. So how can they square in their head, if they believe in redistributive policies in terms of economics, why are they now going to latch on to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency? What's their end goal with that? In my opinion, guys, it's like a Trojan horse. These people come in parading, oh, we love liberty, freedom, and sovereignty, but all their dissertations and all their papers, 5 years previously, were how can we extract the most amount of money out of all the rich people and, bring the highest people to the middle and the lowest people to the middle. That's scary to me. Okay. So then if those people are in charge of the infrastructure of cryptocurrency, if they're the ones that are creating all these startups right now, what's next with all of this? Well, these people are going to go into the government, and guess what? What sort of economic policies do we have right now? Keynesian, which all those people believe in. Keynesian economic policies. They don't believe in saving. They believe in spending. They believe in printing. So if you have access through governmental means of all these people that are coming up in the government and here already, quite frankly, if you can print all the money in the world, what are you going to do? You're going to buy up all the crypto. Okay, so that's a huge issue that freaking nobody's talking about. I've not seen it talked about one time. Print as much money as you want, inflate everything, and then what's going to happen next? Donald Trump is going to say that we are going to purchase BTC and we're going to use it with our reserves to back our US dollar. That's going to happen next. At first, it's going to be 1%. Then it's going to be 2%. And then 3% is going to be Bitcoin. And then 5% is going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a bunch of others. Eventually, they'll keep printing money out of thin air, using that fake money to buy the markets up. And then in 50 years, or probably less, 20 years, they own all the cryptocurrency. And they corner the market, and they do whatever the hell they want, just like they did with gold. And it's a very interesting pipe dream to think that we can use cryptocurrency in a decentralized way to push back against the government. But that's exactly what it is. It's a pipe dream because everybody is drunk with richness right now, and they think that this is the way of the future. They don't see. Here's what's interesting about Richard Hart's ecosystem. The only way, based on my thinking, to be able to push back against the government who can print unlimited money and buy up cryptocurrency is a wildly benevolent entity or entities that are privatized, not institutional or government, that own a majority of the supply of their blockchain. That's the only way. Because why would a government come in and buy something up if one person, one private individual who might happen to hate the government, by the way, can tank that investment for them? That's a huge risk. But then the problem is that person becomes a target of the deep state too. So it's like, this stuff goes deep, man. So my comment to say that you need digital property, you do need digital property. It's going to be a way for you to maintain some sort of modicum of power moving forward. But at the same time, we've got to be realistic about what the government does now, what they've done with other markets in the past, oil and gold and silver, precious metals, all sorts of commodities. They do the same shit, rinse and repeat, and they're doing it right now in front of us.
Okay, I want to take this one layer deeper with you. So I think probably the first bit of pushback you're going to get on this theory is that if theoretically a government does try to print, like, let's just call it, for sake of argument, infinite money in an attempt to spend it to buy Bitcoin, due to the fact that we have liquidity pools and there's a finite amount of some of the major cryptocurrencies out there, wouldn't that just pump up the price of the cryptocurrencies that they're trying to buy up? Or are you saying that because there's not enough people in those current ecosystems that the governments could be able to kind of acquire that cornerstone position and really edge out the market? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think that, all right, let's take BlackRock. BlackRock owns 10% of 95% of every company that's publicly traded in the United States. Okay, 10%. But that 10% in every single company out there is enough to tank the world if they wanted. It's enough say for them to be able to push people in and out of power in those individual companies. With the government, what happens? If you go to lookintobitcoin.com and you go to wallets greater than 1,000 Bitcoin, you're going to see a very, very interesting situation here. Wallets with greater than 1,000 Bitcoin are completely dumped by the top of every market cycle, and then they start accumulating at the very bottom of every market cycle. I think that they have been, and I think they've been accumulating Bitcoin for at least the past 8 to 10 years. And I think that you look at Coinbase's statistics in 2017, 2018, 85% of trading was retail. Fast forward to now, 85% of trading is OTC, and it's non-retail. It's institutional and governments. They are buying up this Bitcoin with people that don't understand how this goes, and every single dip that they have, if it's a multi-year dip, they're purchasing it up, and they're not going to stop because they have unlimited funds to do so. So I think that every opportunity is a buying opportunity for them. Every time the market goes down, they're going to snatch it up. I think that's what we've seen and we'll continue to see. And here's the other point. These institutions, these banking institutions that have been around for 100 years, there's only one reason why, or even longer, 200 years. The only reason why they've been around so long is because they've been playing ball with the government, because the government can shut their asses down. Or they can rally support with their competitors to help shut them down too. I see those entities. I see government and private institutions at that level. Banking institutions is one and the same, in my opinion. And dude, they get these bailout checks during COVID, trillions of dollars, $2.9 trillion divvied out. Of that, 60% got sent to Wall Street coffers. Of that actually got, deployed, maybe 20% of that. And then does the government ever ask for that money back? This bailout money? Do they ask for it back? They give it to colleges and universities and Wall Street? No. They stack it, and then these people are the same people, MicroStrategy and others, that are buying up the crypto markets right now, guys. So it's like, it goes so deep. It's crazy. So I don't completely know the answer, but Fast Abdul said something interesting. You're saying the best form of government is a beneficial dictatorship. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, so can you bring that up?
What I am saying is I don't know the answer, but when I look at what we have here.
The one above that, please. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The one that we have here, in Pulse Chain, that would make sense to push back against evil people. Okay. You look at some of the best times in Roman history where centuries and centuries of monarchy, where you had one person in family succession that keeps passing it down, and they're good people, and the society flourishes. Now, the problem is it only takes one person to destroy everything in 5 years. But for the time being, I don't know how else to solve this problem. If it's an open market and governments can print unlimited money, how do we stop them from cornering the market and taking over in the long run? How do we do it?
Well, think about this, man. They can print currently dollars. All right. Can you print Bitcoin? No. So what are they going to try and print next? And here's the other thing. That same question I just asked you, I'll answer it for you. Okay. Because the answer is actually this. You keep making more. You keep printing more things. And so what you're looking at currently is that these institutions are thinking about corralling, right, Bitcoin, because they can't really control it unless they own it all. Okay, well, they can go ahead and achieve that, but by the time they've achieved building that fence, all the same people who were trying to escape and be free, right, escape this whole institutional trap that you're talking about here, are literally on their way to building a new thing. And that's what you're talking about as far as the RH ecosystem goes. But think about it this way, right? Let's go ahead and say that the governments of the world, the deep state and everybody, they're trying to stop these people now from being on the bleeding edge of technology. Well, that means that you need to move an extremely large ship, and you need to turn it around very quickly to chase after these smaller ships that are flying off into the distance, splitting up as they go. You really can't do it. And so this is a forever fight of good versus evil, if you want to go ahead and say that, or freedom and slavery. Okay. And this is the reason why we have these cycles, because there's going to be a crisis that's going to destroy. And let's go ahead and take what you said there about, like, okay, we're all taking control of now. All right. And it's just a dictatorship where these the governments of the world have just gotten complete control, right? And we're all slaves. What do you think is going to happen? There will eventually be enough humans getting tired of it, and it'll be in a decently short amount of time, because humans are already tired of it, where they see the forest from the trees and they decide to rise up. Now the only choice that you have is eliminate all humans like that. Well, if you start eliminating all humans like that, then all the other slaves that were just fine and dandy living in their life as a slave, right, now convert and transfer into one of the go fight you phase, right? And so ultimately what you're talking about right now is just simply the cycle of what we literally just said at the very beginning of the show. We need to have some sort of crisis to restructure things. And the deep state right now, I think what they're doing is they're realizing, I think they did realize, first off, when it came to Bitcoin right off the bat, but then they're realizing that they need to quickly try and gain enough control of, like I said, calming down the population of people, so that way they don't get, turning the temperature down, that whole thing. Like, you need to be able to do that as the deep state people. Otherwise, the cycle is just going to start all over again. Everyone's going to revolt. They're going to overtake you. And now you're going to have to start up a whole nother 100 years of trying to take it over again. Right. I think ultimately, just to put a capstone on this, ultimately, freedom people, or people all about freedom, move too quickly and are too ready and able to risk it all to gamble on obtaining freedom, forwarding technology to be able to beat out the big guy. And the big guys are unfortunately just too big and too damn slow to be able to keep up with these people. And so therefore it's forever a tug of war that really is not going to have a conclusion. That being said, my hot take, I have an exit on this one, a solution. Are you ready for this? All right. Currently, the only thing we've ever known is a physical world, right? Like the current world powers is in a physical dollar. All right. Now we're starting to look at the possibility of a world reserve currency being electronic. Okay. Internet, the magical world of the internet, right? A whole dimension. If you actually look at it, the internet is an entirely new dimension that humans created. So with that being said, what happens if there is a thing that was created that escaped its cage and became 10 times smarter than its creator?
Yeah, it's 36 months from now.
We are down a rabbit hole. We are far down a rabbit hole. All I want to say in response to this is, look, if you haven't learned anything, what can be unburdened by what has been. Okay, it's possible.
This is the absolute worst.
All right,
are we going down that path now?
No, I had to make it a little lighter. Nate, bro, you just took us into the super space atmosphere, down the wormhole of a black hole.
My bad. We'll have to go to a different dimension then. Cheers.
I'll
go for it. Will.
I was gonna say, so like with all of this information, right? So now that folks have been educated, now that people know what direction things are going, what do they do with this action? What are the actionable steps that people can take with all of this info that's being presented here? That's the focus that I want to kind of redirect this conversation towards, is what do people do? Like, you only have a certain amount of time in your life to get a certain amount of goals accomplished, and like the more sovereignty you have, the more of your goals you can accomplish. The more power you have, the more goals you can accomplish, and the more knowledge you have, the same thing, the more goals you can take care of. So what are things that people can do to increase their sovereignty, to increase their power levels, to increase their information. Obviously, you guys can tune in here, listen to us here on the DGen Roundtable. You can check out Brandon Davis over on x.com/ I want to say it's R2R network. Brandon Davis. R2R. Yeah, so that's where you can find him on X, or you can check out, I don't know if this is a good segue for the conversation here, but you've got a little newsletter that you put out called Dollar Riot. Is that correct? That's what this thing is over here that I'm checking out, Dollar Riot.
Yeah,
at dollarriot.com.
Yep.
Yeah, so can you kind of describe that for the folks at home? What is it, and what inspired you to create this website?
Wait. Well, you asked a question, then you went into something completely different.
Yeah.
We have two
Yeah,
questions. First, actionable. How can people be self-sovereign to create a better life for themselves? And two, then tell us about Dollar Riot.
Yeah.
What can people do? I think that what worked for me was taking the time to understand the things that I didn't understand when I heard them for the first time, or things that I've heard for a long time, and I took somebody else's word for it. We got to stop taking other people's word for it. I think that's the number one thing. Everything I'm saying on here right now, 95% of the people listen to, and they say this dude's batshit crazy. But what if they just took one of these topics and they looked into it and said, wait a minute, maybe they're not too batshit crazy right now, but then they form their own opinions. Yeah, right. So we got to do that, like you said. The other thing that I think we have to do is we can't be so black and white. We've got to take opportunity when we have it. I'm not the type of person that is 100% gung-ho about Donald J. Trump. Believe it or not, I'm not that guy. I understand that Donald J. Trump was responsible for probably, a whole lot of vaccine injuries. I understand that Donald Trump massively increased the M2 money supply. I understand that the deficit increased. I understand that all these things that have happened under every single president was there. But I also believe that he has the motivation to move the ball in the right direction here. So I would plead with people to say, hey, listen, you're not going to get a perfect candidate, but you're going to get somebody who is willing and able and motivated and has, he has the testicular fortitude to stand up against the deep state. I think that's what we're looking at right now. So hold the man accountable, continue to talk shit when he does dumb stuff, but at the same time, really support and push the things that made this country really, really good for a very long time. And quite frankly, many countries across the world, prior to World War II, 42 countries, now there's 193 countries post World War II. Where do you think they got their founding documents? Large portions of that came from the Constitution. It does work. Constitution is self-healing. The Constitution gives a massive amount of power to the individuals. We've strayed so far from that. We've got to fracture this Leviathan that does exist. And some people are finally coming around to seeing it. We've got to fracture that. And how do we do that? We try to support the people that are moving in the right direction. Texas nationalist movement, right? People say, Brandon, you're crazy. You're a secessionist. You hate America. I love America. The Texas nationalist movement, a 501c4 nonprofit who's charged with, creating the plan for Texas to break off from the Union if they have to. That's the type of yin and yang situation and scenarios that we need. The federal government has to be afraid that there are people out there that are willing to move in that direction because culturally things have fractured so much. So I support those sorts of things. The Texas nationalist movement wants the Constitution back the way that it was written. They want their original agreement back. Okay, they got married to the federal government, and now they want a divorce because shit has changed crazily. So, I think that's just my message. Support the people that are going in the right direction, and take every opportunity that you can to educate yourself about the things that you don't understand, and try to push your ego away. In that you think you understand, but you don't. You've got to self-audit. You got to figure it out on your own.
As much as I'd love to talk about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence as the great things they are, I mean, hell, I got my my copy here that some random person tried to steal out of my Amazon package. That's a story for another day. But the point is that the Constitution was written for a just and moral people. And unless you have some sort of base societal fabric, it's not going to work. You can theoretically use it to either push for your things or push against it. One of the things that I've been looking into more recently myself is not just these documents, but the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist papers. And there's people that are very clear about there are certain things in here that as long as you have the will of man and you have a general interpretation, you can kind of push this stuff wherever the hell you want. And it really comes back down to the idea that right now we're fighting the unfortunate, grown, terrible fourth leg of the federal government right now, which is the administrative state. But there's also this unspoken kind of the original fourth leg of the government, which was the states. And I personally think that I understand the Texas movement when it comes to the Texas nationalist movement, but at the same time, ironically, Texas is the one that also has really been pushing to establish or reestablish federalism through the border crisis that we saw, where Texas had the buoys in the Rio Grande, and then the Supreme Court issued the order to try to remove them, and then Governor Abbott pretty much pulled an Andrew Jackson and said the court has made its order. Let's see them come and enforce it.
Well, but the reason
fast.
you got to give that context, though. It's because the federal government failed to protect the people of Texas.
Correct. Absolutely.
The people of Texas have to stand up. So is that like is that hearkening back to federalism? I don't know if I would go that far, but they got to stick up for themselves.
I would say yes, because what Texas did in that particular instance, in conjunction with other states, was it was multiple states working together to push back against the federal government. So instead of having the fourth branch of the federal government being the administrative state, you had the check on the federal government, which itself was the states through federalism.
That's what it always should have been. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. But we've been deviating from.
Written.
Correct. We've been deviating that from for a long time, though,
Correct.
which is that I think there's kind of a belief that the supremacy clause of the Constitution, which specifically talks about the Supreme Court, but the supremacy clause is specifically for the rulings of the court when it comes to disagreements between lower courts. It does not mean that the federal government rules over all the states and their sovereignty. What it says is that the states are sovereign entities in and of themselves, but they join together to create these United States, which is a greater whole than the parts. So if the head of this being, or the Leviathan, as good word, I like using that one as well. In fact, I got multiple books for the book club that I'm going to torture the gang with here shortly. But the point is that if the head or the federal government, aka DC and the swamp, starts to go too far in its own direction, the states ultimately do have the power and the authority to push back and say, yeah, no, here's why. But the point of that comes from the fact that the states have their own power and legitimacy of their own authority to operate as a state and not just be forced to do whatever the federal government declares it has to do.
Correct. And why do you think the founders didn't put in a clause that said the union was permanent? Makes no mention of that anywhere. Think about where they came from. Like, well,
that is an argument that I've been.
Well, there was one court ruling from Abraham Lincoln Supreme Court appointee, and they were trying to keep the country together at that point. But it's not in the Constitution anywhere. No, but it makes so much sense because those guys had real tyranny, and they had to flee real tyranny to create the United States. Why would they lock future generations into this? At the risk of death, if they thought it was important or not important.
That's true. Although when I've been doing my historical readings and such, if you look back to the pushback against the original Bill of Rights, one of the arguments was that these things are so obvious that no one should ever have to have these things actually stated for them. But at this point, it's like, damn, am I glad that we have all of the specific enumerated rights in the Bill of Rights listed as such, because people today genuinely do not believe that they were like obvious or just self-aware. So I do believe, I'm right there with you when you make the argument that, look, they didn't write that this thing is indefinite and forever, and so it doesn't have to be. But at the same time, the reason that they did, remember, this is the second attempt. This is not the first attempt. The first attempt was the Articles of Confederation. This is the second attempt that, in my opinion, they got They did right, and they did a very good job of getting it right when they wrote it. Unfortunately, we've strayed since then. But the point is that, like, I think the country itself and the structure, it's not guaranteed to last forever. But if the values instilled in it are maintained, that is something that can last the test of time.
Yeah, I think you said this earlier too. It's very important to have a people that are bought into this thing, and also a moral, just people. That's important. But I do think that the government actually does have the choice to be able to use monetary energy to reinforce things like the nuclear family and reinforce things that make society better. I just don't think they've really done that for the past 40 years. That's really how it feels to me.
That's true.
And especially with, well, we're not going to get into all that. We could go crazy with that, but
brother, we can talk about the 16th Amendment and how that's been the downfall of it all.
Yeah, well, let's get back to the 25th Amendment because that's pretty applicable right now.
Let's do it.
Nah,
How about I'm going to say one last thing. I'm going to move on to another topic. The Second Amendment is essentially gives citizens, and I would also say states, since they are sovereign individuals as well, the right to defend themselves and their property against unlawful violence and government tyranny. So I think that's somewhat why the Second Amendment was written as well.
Well,
now,
you just want guns so you can kill people. That's what you're really saying, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that simple.
That's what they tell us. Yeah, that's what they say about us. But yes, what you just said is 100% correct, man.
Awesome. So this is a fantastic conversation on this topic. Honestly, we could probably talk for 4, 5, 6 hours. We might be able to have an all-day stream. So I do want to curb it. But Brennan, you said something earlier that was really interesting to me. You said that when you first got into crypto, you did it to make money. I want to make bank, bro.
Yep.
But the last several years, maybe it was becoming a family, maybe it was having kids, that kind of changed your mind about why you want to be in crypto now. So you want to expound upon that a little bit more? That was really interesting to me.
Dude, so 2013, the way that this went down was I'm on Facebook, and I just, I'm out of the military pretty recently at that point. And I'm on Facebook, and you're at that point in your life, you're just kind of looking at opportunities. And this guy on Facebook kept saying stuff about Bitcoin. Like every day he's posting 2 or 3 times. He's like, Bitcoin's going up, guys, hit me up. Bitcoin's going up, hit me up. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. And eventually, I see that he said, Bitcoin's like, $3,500 or whatever it was. I forgot. But I hit him up, okay? And this is actually probably one of my first introductions to a scammer, but at the same time, he taught me a lot. So he was a miner, and he was looking for exit liquidity for his mining rigs. So I kind of trusted him because I knew a couple people through him. He was like, yeah, dude, get together with me. I'll tell you everything about Bitcoin for only $150. So I'm like, all right, I'll pay him $150. So I'm just trying to learn all this stuff. So I learn it, and he has this spreadsheet, and he shows me his ROI on his Bitcoin miners, and he says, hey, I'm willing to sell some for you. And he comes up these numbers, and the market's super inflated. When the market gets inflated, Bitcoin miners fly. They go crazy. I think I ended up paying, like, at that time for Antminer S9 14.5 terahash, I think I paid like $5,500 for it. And then literally 24 months later, it's like $350. Okay. But the ROI was so great at that time. I didn't understand market cycles or this or that. So I got pretty burned, got pretty messed up by that. But I didn't give up. And I did I made Bitcoin, right? But it sucked spending $1,000 at 7 cents per kilowatt hour, $1,000 in energy to make $100 worth of Bitcoin after everything's paid. That really sucked. So I was an idiot, but I'm the guy that likes to, I shoot before I aim, and that's good and bad in a lot of situations. So I keep going here, and, I make a pretty good amount of money. I pick up a fire sale after 2017 and 2018, going into 2019. I'm snatching up things like Dogecoin. I'm snatching up Luna when it had launched, and I'm snatching up Matic, and I'm buying Cardano at a penny or 2 pennies, and like pretty much rode that all the way up and did really well. And then it kind of shifted for me to see all the crazy stuff that was happening in the world back in 2020, especially COVID. It completely changed my perspective about what was important moving forward. And then I instantly realized that this was the opportunity right now to get your digital property, because that digital property was going to become extremely valuable over the next 20 or 30 years. I have my kid and I'm thinking about my kid too, and this and that. So I saw all these strong power plays. I saw the SEC and the FDIC and all these 3-letter agencies come up and destroy these crypto companies and do hostile takeovers and dry up the liquidity markets for DeFi. And then Elizabeth Warren, acting through proxy through Gary Gensler, saying all this shit that she doesn't understand at all. And I knew that she was, influenced by some lobbyist somewhere as well. Like, it just made me so pissed to see all these good people that I'm hanging out with on YouTube and Twitter every day. And I'm meeting these people in real life and understanding that these folks are just looking for a way out after government for the past 40, 50, 60 years has increased the into money supply by 13,000%, and your dollar's worth not even half of what it was before. Like, it frustrated me. And I'm the type of person that seeks justice. And I want to punch these people in the face for what they do to everyday Americans. And I want to get the word out and teach these people what's being done to them. So I do see crypto as a way to push back against that. It has outperformed every asset class over the past 15 years here. Bitcoin has, any traditional asset class. So, and I don't think it's going to stop for the foreseeable future. So that's, my mission has changed from more of a selfish, ego-driven, me mission to there's a lot of hardworking, great people out there that deserve the knowledge and deserve to understand how this works and benefit from it while they can, because good people that have money tend to do good things with their money after they have it.
You can
Go ahead, Dave.
you can take a horse to water, right? But you can't make him drink.
That sucks. I know. It hurts.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're kind of stuck in this place, and this is what we're doing at the DJ Roundtable too. It's like trying to get the knowledge out there, trying to help as many people as possible. But unfortunately, we're kind of in this spot, and I see it all day, every day at work, right? Where, because I go I'm in contact, sorry, with a lot of different people, and it's like, just save who you can. If someone is willing to listen, talk to them. Inform them. But that's only if they're willing to listen. And it's a really unfortunate little bottleneck that we have, in society. And I do wish we could get more information out there.
Well, but you don't understand, like, what's the ROI of doing nothing? ROI of doing nothing is zero. I think if let's just take this as a community. I haven't used this word yet, but the pulse chain community, for God's sakes. If we stop being so aggressive with people and we focus on building network, they will be in our network for decades. And they might not take to what we have to say now, but they might do it in 5 years. They might do it in 7 years or 8 years. It's all about how long will they have contact with that knowledge surface area. And I think we need to approach things that way. The bigger we build our network, the more beneficial it's going to be. And it's like fission, okay? Nuclear fission. One atom split, then all the other atoms split almost instantly. And if we can get that effect with enough people, I think that's what works.
Yeah, look, it's just like it's like I'm in sales, right? People are like, everyone, when they hear the word sales or salesman, they think of like this used car salesman, right? That are trying to sell them a bill of goods, sell them junk, trying to take their money for essentially scam them. But for me, and I think it's the same as the pulse chain community, sales is about building relationships. They might not buy anything from you right away, might not even need your product right away, but if they trust you and respect you, then they might introduce you to somebody else that does need your product, or they might need your product down the road, but they won't forget about you. So for me, sales is always about building relationships and being there to help people when they need it. I think it's the same in pulse chain. Like you said, like, it's not always about shoving things down somebody's throat. It's about building a community and growing that community, even if they aren't part of your pulse chain community and they're purchasing, but if they're part of the movement that you're trying to create and they're like-minded individuals, then they might start to do that at some point. And I think that that is important for the community. I think the other thing that you're kind of talking about, Rags, is for me, you know, I've been trying to get my family to buy cryptocurrencies for years. I've been trying to get my friends, some of them that I feel comfortable enough talking about, not about the subject, but, you know, that have the capital and are in a situation where they might be able to throw $100 here, $1,000 there. You know how many friends and family of mine have invested in crypto? Very, very, very few. Almost
5%. 5% probably.
If that.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not shoving it down their throat because look, they have to put the buy button. They hit the sell button, and if they buy and they don't do well, I don't want them to come back to me and say, "Hey, look, you told me to buy." No, look, I'm explaining to you what cryptocurrency is and why it's a good investment. That's up to you if you want to invest in it or not. But man, I was begging my family to buy Bitcoin under 20,000. I was begging them, and didn't happen.
Same. Yeah, it's here's a very inconvenient truth for our community. We are a bunch of immature bitches, man. We act like children on a public stage. It's embarrassing. And here's the problem is people saw what Richard Hart did and thought that that's who the man was. What he did worked at the time because he was trying to cut through the noise. But that's not who he is. And I'm certain that he doesn't expect people to act that same way online or in person in real life. Where does that get you? That gets you shot, or that gets you thrown in jail, or that you lose all of your dignity and respect from people online. We got to grow the hell up here, okay? You can let Richard Hart do what Richard Hart does, and it worked for him. I'm not willing to do that. I don't feel good doing that, but he can and he does, and he's very successful, and I'm not going to take that away from him. I will say that I don't like it, okay? But I will say that I benefited from it. I don't like it, but I benefited from it. So I think that people like you guys who bring a level-headed perspective to this whole conversation and stay out of the cesspool on Twitter and bring value day in and day out and bring education day in and day out, this is what we need. And I've told you guys this before. We need more of this, and set the example. Lead by example, and we can change this. Pulse Chain is a whole world. Create your own faction and grow it out and be a great representative. And that's what I would love to see.
I appreciate
you must be you're either a prophet or you listen in on the team calls, because this is literally something that we've been wrestling with lately, which is that we want to produce more content that is more palatable and understandable to a general audience, which is we want to make sure that the streams pre-produce, we're able to hand out to other people in our lives, and they can immediately pick up and understand what we're talking about. Because I mentioned it earlier, which is that I think the crypto space largely has been that 2 to 3 standard deviations in that early adopters category. And you are so far in the early adoption category there that you are working with those people that really don't care about social norms or fitting in. So some of the stuff going on is like very out there and very hard for a general audience to understand and grasp. But now that we are in what I do believe is the ETF cycle, there's a lot of people that are trying to make good financial decisions and are willing to be aggressive with it. And they're looking at crypto as this thing and a way to do it. But they're looking at the community and the media and the marketing out there, and they don't quite understand the flavor, because the lot of the crypto content, and especially the memes, has a degree of skepticism of traditional ways of doing things, specifically finance, and then also kind of a degree of nihilism to it.
It is
being
YOLO.
Being able to, yeah. Look, I get it. I think it's funny, partly because I'm probably chronically online at this point, but also at the same point, it's like I am part of that younger generation that kind of understands this stuff. But when you're trying to play to that larger audience, it's trying to understand how do we explain these things to people clearly and help them see the value in it and understand it. Like, hell, even today, some of my good buddies like gave me some crap. They were like, "Hey, are you still in that Hex thing? How's that pyramid scheme working for you?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't think you quite understand it, brothers, but I'll keep trying."
Dude, so this is a shameless shill, but I think you guys would find value in this. I
Chill
launched
away,
a
good sir.
podcast. Launched a podcast for the very reason that we're talking about right here. You can go on Spotify, Apple Tunes, all the major outlets. It's called the Brandon Davis podcast or Brandon Davis Show. Okay. My first two guests were billionaires in real estate and then billionaire in oil and gas. So, am I going to show up to my podcast with a billionaire with oil and gas or billionaire in real estate and show him my dankest memes? No, I'm not freaking
No.
doing that. Right. I want to be in his network and I want him to know what I do. So when he's ready to approach me or he trusts me enough to approach me, I'm there for him. That can take a year. It can take a long time. But I think we need to do more of that. We need to do more of what you guys are doing. And I think we can win. And I think the people that are doing that should band together, ally together to make really good content. Grown-up adult content here and shy away from this garbage on Twitter.
Yeah, look, Zenith said it already. Look, this is what
Did I give away too much there? Sorry, was
No,
that too
no.
inside baseball?
No, Zenith, because I was going to say something similar. But you know what it boils down to is for most of the communities that I've been in early in crypto, it's like memes, it's like anime, it's like, you know, I don't want to say like a little too extreme in some cases, but in some cases it's pretty graphic, you know, some of these memes and things. And how do we attract a more professional audience? There's a lot of people that have a lot of money to invest. If you're talking about real estate investors, startup company, either CFOs, CEOs. I've been talking to a few startup people that are really interested in the crypto game. But if they come to a place where it's just like memes and derogatory, you know, man talk from like you're 18 years old, it's not going to attract them to the space as much. And so we do want to have that as an outlet to some extent, but we also want the content that we produce to be really professional and to bring in a different type of people. Because look, the people that are in crypto already. So how do we get more people to come into the space? And that's something that we're wrestling with. And those are conversations that we're having internally. And look, you're hearing on the air those things that we're talking about internally. Because look, at some point we're gonna monetize our show.
Monetize? No, you can't monetize.
Yeah, we said the dirty word.
Look, this show will never be monetized. We'll be giving out all of our free content that we're giving out now will never be monetized, but there will be options to get more content behind a paywall at some point. That doesn't change any of the content that we're giving out now. That'll never change. We might put a paywall behind the Telegram at some point. Maybe not for the people that are in already, but for people that want to come in. But look, to monetize something and try to get more people into the space, yeah, you have to bring some sort of professionalism, especially if you want TradFi to take you seriously. And not that I want them to take me seriously, because I really don't give a fuck what they think. But I want them to come into the space. I want them to understand that this is more than just, you know, some immature men.
Well, to what is it? 220 million or trillion of assets under management, and 80% of that is owned by people above the age of 55. Okay, so there's a target, and it's not even that you're trying to attract traditional finance. You're trying to attract people who are involved in traditional finance, and if you can make things simple and easy and understandable, and as the least amount of risk possible, if you can provide that solution for them, you might have a chance. Or education, man. Yeah, so I'm not going to talk to you guys about that. You guys are smart. You guys can come up with plenty of ideas. Plus, we all have Chat GPT these days. So, but yeah, I love what you guys are doing. You'll figure it out.
We've been talking about this for 6 months, and we've been working on it. We don't want to just put something out there that's just to put something out there. We want to bring value to the community. We want to bring not only value for the community, we want to bring value from a monetary standpoint by getting other people outside of crypto to come into crypto, right? And so there's more than just making money. It's about making everybody money. This is the space that we want to get people to.
Dude, this is just a really a side comment here. I just feel like society is pressing everybody who's an adult to hang on to childhood for as long as possible. and we see that, I go to Comic-Con, with my kid, and instead of 650 children below the age of 10, I see 600 adults above the age of 40 and 50 children. That's a problem in my mind. Okay. And the other thing is, like, people realize that they're making memes now, but eventually they're going to be 40 years old and 50 years old and 60 years old. You're still going to be crushing those memes, man. Like, let's bring a different flavor to it. Let's be grown-ups about this.
They might, Brendan. I don't think everyone in the space is ready to grow up. So,
well, and Twitter is a very low-risk
okay.
way to do that. Yeah.
But look, there's content that is for everybody, and we need to get more people into the space. How do we do that? Anyway, I want to throw a few. We got a few starred chats here. So the first thing is, Mr. Producer, can we pull up the super chat from Fastadu Abdul? That's just bribes with the. I believe those are Indonesia.
That is the Indonesian ruple or rupiah. Excuse me.
Yes, I was right. Thank you for the chat, money. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for the 100,000 rupee super chat. That's a $6.16 well spent, good sir.
I wish it was. He needs to figure out the conversion for $5. $5.
Yeah.
$5.55.5. Okay. We got Moonpill Rational Optics. What's up, gents? Welcome, brother. Thank you for coming in. We're very moonpilled tonight. Very moonpilled.
Always good to see him. I know he was I think he was keying in on the federalism chat earlier. He had a comment. I'll read it out here. You don't have to find it. He says, most don't know that each state has its own freedoms in each of their own constitutions that most people look over. Yeah, guess what? Most states have their own constitution.
Yes.
You should probably go find the one that you live in or the one that you want to live in and see if it works for you.
And if you realize that the Massachusetts Constitution was started the United States Constitution. Helped too.
Oh, the dang Commonwealth. Get out of here.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Boo.
Guys, I got super bad news for you. My battery is epically low right now. You might have me for 10 or 15 minutes.
All good,
all right.
brother. We'll finish up. We'll wrap this up then real quick. All right, let's get through the rest of these chats. Jonathan Kampala, Rags in the house.
I drank a lot of tequila with Jonathan Kampala in Texas. I just want to let you guys know.
Hell yeah.
That sounds wonderful. We're going to have to recreate that sometime.
Awesome.
Crypto Sloth. So you guys let
the man, the myth.
Dr. Tooth Slayer himself.
We might have to get the dentist himself, Dr. Crypto Sloth, back on at some point. What's up, good DGen fam? Thank you, brother, for checking in as always. Appreciate the support. And I believe that is all of them. So honestly, really thank you everyone for checking in tonight. It is always a pleasure to have Rags on, and he took time out of his vacation to be here with us. So he didn't have to do that, but we really, really appreciate it. Also, please like, subscribe, join the Telegram, and also like, subscribe, and join. Brandon's doing a lot of great things. Texas Token. I don't know if anyone is invested in that, but that was one of his first babies. And Dollar Riot, which Will mentioned earlier. Rags, any other new projects or any other new things you're working on?
Yeah, the podcast, The Brandon Davis Show. You can find that everywhere now. I'll be trying to put out probably about 4 or 5 episodes a month with some heavy hitters, only heavy hitters there. So it's kind of like my white glove service. I still have youtube.com/R2R, and that's going to be crypto related mostly. So yeah, that's what we're working on right now.
Awesome. Yeah, we did put the links on under the video if anyone wants to find that. We've also thrown them in the chat, either myself or Will, so look through there. But honestly, Brendan adds an incredible based, level-headed comments to the community. He's not flying off the handle, and he might open your eyes to things that you didn't realize previously, either crypto or politics or world, just in general. He really covers a lot of topics, and I read all of his tweets, and they're great, and they really bring a thought-provoking process, not, just in general. So
You poor thing. You should walk away, run away while you still can, buddy.
you know what's interesting is I really never used Twitter until recently. Maybe it's because of this show. Maybe it's because of crypto and I'm trying to stay up to date. But you can't get news as fast anywhere else as you get on Twitter. Something will be on Twitter before any news agency might have it for 30 minutes to an hour. So if you want to stay up to date, you really have to. And now that we're doing the show and we're in our chats and we're trying to provide value to people and to help people, we really need to be up to date on things. So I see myself being on Twitter a lot more. And honestly, like, it's been a rabbit hole the last few weeks. It's just been like, I can't pull myself away from it.
Crazy. I can't either, man. Yeah. And it is the free speech platform. It certainly is that now.
Yeah, that's another conversation for another day. Will, Nate, Zenith, anything you guys want to add? I feel like we'll wrap up here before his video cuts off.
I got one final question, and I think it's kind of the answer to one of Will's questions earlier, which is, what are we doing in this space, and how can you ensure that you're actually going to be winning in your life? And I thought that the answer is threefold, which is have kids, instill values, and pass the torch. And I think it appears that you are a guy that has done all those things. So for dudes out there that maybe aren't married and don't have aspirations of having kids, what can you say to try to convince them?
Children is it's like the final boss, okay, for a man. So you go through, you try to figure out life, you wander aimlessly through the wilderness. If you're lucky, you're blessed with somebody that you can make a home with, and then you can have children with. And children are the biggest blessing that any man can give to himself. It is a struggle, but it is a struggle worthwhile. And it shows that you not only love your family, but you love society too. If you're a good person, you're going to want this world to be a better place. And it's also a second chance at redemption if you have a child. So, I would say that it is the final boss. It is the pinnacle. It is what every man should strive for, in my humble opinion.
Fair enough. I think it's also kind of the answer to one of the other questions that we had earlier, which is you asked about who are the people that really push like Web3 development and AI stuff. And I would argue it's the more general term is the technocracy. And if you believe in the technocracy, it's kind of the idea that like evolution is the ultimate pinnacle and you're trying to create the better human. But at the core, it's really just a values proposition. And it's asking what are the values that you believe in. And that's one of the values that they believe in is just perpetual progress. But I think if you're willing to build something bigger than yourself, have kids, be less selfish, as you mentioned before, I think it's a statement of the values on its own.
Yeah, find the people that look at humanity and they think of us as a virus, and stay away from those people. That's what I would say.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to get religious, but I am obviously a Christian. Everyone knows that. I've never shied away from that. It's the thing that makes me who I am. And I think that being positive and trying to be a light to the world, whatever that means, make the world a better place, help those that are less fortunate, try to instill those values that you guys are talking about. And look, some people can't have kids and, maybe they don't have the opportunity to, so they can't instill value in kids, but you can still lead by example. And that is instilling values to the world, right? So be it volunteering, being it help people that are less fortunate, giving it of your time and money, whatever the case may be. If you have a family, yes, that should be your priority to instill values. But you have to instill your values by how you act, how you treat others, and how you respect our country and our world. And people will either respect you for it, and some people will hate you for it. But they're not the ones that ultimately decide who you are. That's you. And the way we make the world a better place is, again, instilling those values one step at a time and in being that person in the world that we want others to be, that we want to see.
Absolutely. You don't have to be a Christian to read the Bible.
Even Elon's not a Christian, but he says he really respects the teachings of Christ.
It's a damn good playbook, guys. I don't like if you look at it and you just read it and you're like, well, I don't believe I'm an atheist, but the Bible's a pretty good blueprint, you know. So just want to point that out.
I think there's things you can learn from everything you read.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just the Bible. There's a lot of the Abrahamic texts go into this sort of thing as well, but yeah, there's
every
ways
Friday,
to do it.
I don't know if you know, every Friday we have a book club. And so Zenith and Will are the guys that run our book club. So we won't be having the Bible on the book club this Friday. But what book do we have coming up this week?
There's actually there's a beautiful correlation to all this because, Brandon, you were talking about Keynesian economics earlier. This week for book club, I chose The Road to Serfdom by Frederick Hayek, who is the counterpoint to Keynes. So we're going to be covering that.
Austrian, yeah.
Austrian School of Economics, baby.
Yep.
It is going to be a riveting book club. Tune in. And don't worry, I think the audiobook is only like 10 hours long, so super easy read. Get in there when you can.
It's only like 7.5 hours at 1.5, right?
I think I've gotten to the point where I've broken my brain enough where everything is at minimum like 2.0. So yeah, talking to you guys always breaks me out of that and brings me back to reality. I'm like, oh, this is what normal human speech sounds like. Okay, cool.
That's fantastic.
Hey, Brandon, I had one question for you. So because of the crazy times going on, what is your message to everybody about how to move forward? And in my personal message, it's don't worry about it, right? Everything is going to be okay. Just keep trying to live the best life you can.
Yeah. I'm the type of person that responds best when I understand what's happening around me, whether it's good or bad. So I spend a lot of time digging in and understanding as much as possible. Latch onto your family, cherish your family, your friends, the intangibles, the things that don't just go away. And if you are a person of faith, I'm not the type of person, I used to be this type of person, but I'm going to talk about it, man. Being, for me, being in my Bible and the amount of wisdom that I can pull from that is completely priceless, man. Like, and I hate that people really demonize what the Bible is, but that really helps you navigate tough times. And understanding history helps me out too. And being a part of the process instead of being passive. So I feel like in some small way with my small audience, I'm doing something to contribute to things being better. So that's what I would say.
I appreciate that. Hey, real quick hitter. I know your phone might die, but
yeah.
Any pulse chain hopium? Any ETH ETF hopium?
Yeah, pulse chain will do a 14,000x. I've got no doubt.
That is a unique number. Where did you get 14,000?
Because Ethereum did 14,000.
All right, enough said.
I love it.
I think that happens within the next 5 to 8 years, I would imagine. Depending on when the SEC stuff gets dropped, from that point, it's probably going to be 5 to 8 years, in my opinion.
Well, I'll be here for it, and if that happens, we'll maybe smoke a cigar on a yacht somewhere.
Just make sure you clip it, guys. That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely.
You heard it here first.
Hey, Will, buddy, as we close out, what you got going on? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so for those of you guys who can read the bottom of my little screen here, it says bit.ly/hex_meetup. I'm going to be hanging out at Galloway Grill on the southern end of Springfield tomorrow from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern. So if you guys are over in the Missouri area and you want to come meet some crypto degenerates, or I don't know, maybe take a stab at killing me or something, that's where I'm going to be. So come hang out, come have a good time. Hey, fucking somebody out there is probably going to do it. For those of you guys catching it on the replay that are like going to be my would have been assassins, better luck next time. But for everyone else, come hang out, come have fun. We're going to have a good time. I've gone ahead and posted and pinned my plans and everything in the Hex Meetup chat, which again, you can find at this link down here below. It is bit.ly/hex_meetup. So Yeah, come hang out. That's what I'm doing. I'm stoked to do book club, and then I'll go ahead and announce that the next book that we're going to do for the following week, after this one that Zenith is doing this Friday here in a couple days, is I'm going to be doing the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which is the second half of Patrick Lencioni's or Lencioni's book that we just covered. So we've already covered his ideal team player. The next thing that we're going to be covering is the 5 dysfunctions of a team. So you guys can look forward to seeing that.
Book. Thank you, by the way, Will. That's when I wanted to like straight up just go whether we were going to do it or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely, broski. So we're gonna cover the second half of Patrick Lencioni's work, and that's what you guys can expect from me. If you want to follow any of my socials or anything, you can check out my Pulse domain. It is will.pls.fyi. I was lucky enough to snag that four letter domain name before anyone else did when those first got launched. So you guys can find all of my socials, like my Facebook, my Instagram, Twitter, Telegram, all the shit that I've done, my link trees and everything is all over there at will.pls.fyi. That's all I got. Mr. Nate, what do you got going on in the near future, bro? And where can the folks find you? Nate Magetta.
What's going on, buddy?
Yeah, that's you, bro. Yeah. What's up, bro?
Yeah, no. I'm just continuing on with just continuing on with the background things. You know, there's it's not just the Telegram that we're creating in the background. You know, there's some other things that are going to be popping out here. So, you know, just continuing on with all those things. And he's gone.
Long live Rags.
Okay, now we got a new special guest, Mrs. McGettit. But yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to 10 hours, or in this particular case, probably like 7 hours, which will be an entire work day for me, because it is nice I'm able to listen to them while working, but it kind of sucks when you have a trainee in the vehicle with you and they're listening to a book and they're like, why are you doing this while still trying to train me and all that? So yeah, it's kind of weird, but hey, maybe I'm helping people.
I'll put it this way. If you can't listen to the entire audiobook, I know that there is a documentary about Keynesian economics versus Hayek's version of economics. It's like 2 hours. I watched it in an econ class in college. I'll have to find the link for everybody, but that is the shorter version if you want.
Well, I'll start with that tomorrow and then I'll move into the actual book. I actually have a thing about wanting to actually read the book, even if I get more understanding from like just wrap ups and stuff, right? But I at least want to read the book. That's why I love book club in the first place, and that's what I think all of you watching should do. You should follow along in book club for the same reason that I wanted to do this, so that way I could actually read and or listen to the actual book itself, right? That would be an important thing for you guys. Plus, you can sit there and you can start check marking like, yeah, I listened to that book. I know that book, right? That'd be pretty cool for you guys. Anyways, enough of me babbling. Let's go ahead and pass it off over to Z. What is going on?
Not much, folks. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ZenithDI. Shoot me a DM, reach out, tag me in a meme or whatever you want. That's the best place to reach me outside of the Telegram, which you can get to right down below if you scan the QR code. That is the link to the DGen Roundtable Telegram chat. Get in there, hang out, chat with us. If you want to ask any of us questions about anything, seriously, go in here and then just at us. I am Zenith Crypto on the Telegram, and then everyone else, I'm pretty sure, is just their usual name, aside from Brendan, who is anonymous being, I'm pretty sure. Or he might actually just be Brendan. But the point is, that's the best way to reach us. By the way, shout out to Brandon so much for coming on this show. This has been an absolute blast. He is definitely right up the alley that a lot of us are thinking about a lot of the times, but we don't talk about on the show just because we're usually trying to do the crypto stuff. But I think it's been fun to watch his evolution from a guy that does a lot of crypto projects, and he's more and more out there just doing generalized projects and saying, hey, I got into crypto to make money, but now I'm in it because I see the principles and I want to make sure those principles go throughout the world and his life. And he mentioned it to me, but the Leviathan is a fascinating concept. This was actually recommended to me by Christian Hines, who was a guest on one of the previous book clubs that we had covering The Law by Frederick Bastiat. If you're a fan of Brendan and the political conversation that we had tonight, go check out the book club that I had with Christian Hines covering The Law by Bastiat. It pretty much was trying to discuss about what is the idea of a good government or a perverted government and what it does and what is just or unjust. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think that is my magnum opus for works so far. And I just want to give some more love to him because really appreciate Christian's time coming on and appreciate Brandon's time coming on. And if you like Brandon, I think you're going to like this. All right. Enough of that. I will catch you guys on Friday for covering The Road to Serfdom by Frederick Hayek on Book Club. And that is all I got. Brandon, take us out, brother.
Thank you all. Will, Nate, Zenith, panel, Miss Producer. Get it? And the biggest thanks of all to Brandon, Rags to Riches, R2R. Honestly, whenever you come on, it's just fantastic to talk to you. I know you've dropped off because your cell phone died, but maybe you'll hear the end of this at some point. And honestly, it's just really down-to-earth, good conversation. You obviously are very well read. You know what's going on in the world. You are a man of history, and you're trying to make the world a better place little by little, and I appreciate that. And I hope one day we can break bread, have a drink, maybe have a cigar, and someday that will happen. But nonetheless, really appreciate you coming on. Hopefully it's not the last time, and anything that we can do to help you or promote your podcast or other projects, we were more than happy to. Fans, family, crypto degenerates and degenettes, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, join our Telegram, follow us on Twitter. And look, don't believe anything that we say. Don't believe anything that the world tells you. Research, and figure out the truth for yourself. But don't just believe. Don't just read headlines. Figure it out, and live long and prosper. I believe that's Spock, right? Live long and prosper.
We got to say to degen responsibly or whatever.
Hey, I didn't say I'm leaving yet.
I thought that was your. I thought that was your sign off, bro. I was like,
no, that wasn't my sign off.
Like it.
Okay,
Not to
thank
read
God.
The stage directions too.
We
much,
do it
but
live.
It kind of felt like that.
that was my sign off of thanking Rags and the people for watching us. Now I want to say enjoy the week. We hope to see you Friday for book club. We hope to see you Sunday on our flagship show. And remember, degens and degenettes, degen responsibly.